in, us doing this through Ascend, but sometimes these things don't work out. So that's what you were hearing. You were kind of hearing us being restreamed via Empower ADHD. It didn't work, so we've unfortunately had to shut that down. So you're just stuck with us on Ascend. But anyway, we're going to get started on today, which is Ask an ADHD Coach. And it's mostly based on the workplace, but we got a few questions from yesterday that we didn't cover. So we're going to, I think Tim's going to ask a few of those leftover ones. So Yvonne and I will be answering some of these questions. Let's go, Tim.
Absolutely. Hello, Yvonne. And let's start with the first one. This is one from TikTok. Why can't I sleep because of racing thoughts at night?
Okay, so and this is, this affects so many people with ADHD, and there are many, many reasons. That default that default mode network that we have, that is neurotypical brains have an on-off switch. Ours just tends to keep firing away, and we'll keep firing thoughts. And particularly at times where there's things in our mind or stress. But it's also, we're very sensitive. We ADHDers tend to have a slightly different circadian rhythm, and that really influences our sleep. So there is, there are neurological reasons behind it, which, are around kind of circadian rhythm and default mode network, but actually dealing with it is the challenge. And there are many ways to deal with it. And very often, people focus on their time before bed. And really, actually, we need to look at phase one of our day. And phase one is actually the morning time of really starting to work with the circadian rhythm. So doing things like getting light, looking at our caffeine, getting exercise. We're booting up our system, to adequately for during the day. Looking at, caffeine is a big one, and some people love it, some people can't tolerate it, but when you take it can be really important. Obviously the cutoff time we're aware of, but even when during the morning that we take caffeine will have an influence later on the day. So it's about breaking the day down. And looking at that morning time, looking at the afternoon time. Are you having caffeine too late? Have you had exercise? What is going on within that day? And then the evening, what's happening with our brain is going just on full power. And the way to deal with that is often to give our brain something else to do. So even if you wake in the middle of the night, sometimes we've just got to accept that is how our brain works. But to work with that, we can give it something else to do. So that can be having yoga scripts. That can be just accepting it's 3 a.m. in the morning and my brain is shooting off. I've woken up. So what are the things that I can do? And that is really looking to those kind of scripts, that breathing, temperature of the room. Are you too hot, too cold? And just building in some patterns and routines. Some people need to read. I have clients who will just say, I need to read, even if it's 3 in the morning, I need to read. My brain is now engaged in something else and I just drift off to sleep. So there are ways of really trying to work through what works, but it's not just looking at sleep in those few hours before of the wind down, the light, the temperature, the giving your body the cues. It starts in the morning.
Have you got anything to
what one was, the racing thoughts, obviously, they're there throughout the day. Having ADHD, having that really hungry brain stuff for stimulation, the thoughts are always there. But, from what I've seen, obviously at nighttime, like Yvonne was saying, it's night, you're meant to sleep, it's quiet. There's now no longer that kind of external kind of input coming in. And so the ADHDers can hear them more. And like Yvonne was saying, it's about finding an alternative source of stimulation. So, I've got a lot of clients that will listen. I've got one client that listens to a shipping podcast to try and distract themselves from their own thoughts. And, and I guess it's so uninteresting to them. However, it distracts them away from the thoughts in their head enough to just give them enough stimulation before to go to sleep. So a lot of ADHDers, they've just got to substitute. They still need some stimulation, but it's got to be the right level. Yeah.
Yeah, and because it's recognizing that that default mode network is not turning off, so therefore it's intentionally directing the attention of your brain somewhere
Yes.
else,
That's
so
it.
that
Yeah.
you can then go, okay, now I can finally drift off to sleep. So it's distraction is one of the keys, and then what that distraction is down to individuals.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But definitely not turning on your phone with a bright light in the middle of the night.
No.
That's not one, because it's that circadian rhythm. That's what you need to start working with.
Yeah, and that's too stimulating, isn't
Yeah.
it? You know, the
Well,
phone.
it's too the light. It's just the messages are all wrong. It's now giving the brain the message, oh, we've got to wake up. So we want to keep that melatonin there. We want to get rid of that serotonin. You know, you just don't want to be giving, you know, the brain the wrong messages. So yeah.
It's a real problem for many ADHDs, this one.
Yeah, it's a key feature. It's a key feature because it's just it's those thoughts. They just keep coming, and some are really useful. I've had clients who solve the best problems in their sleep. Not quite in their sleep, it's a lighter sleep, and they solve the best things because they have the space to work it through. But if you've got something on your mind, it can be challenging, you know, not to get into that rumination zone with it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will be able to relate to that. A lot of people have that problem with sleeping, that when you're just trying to just get to rest and then they just won't stop. So it's very useful to have that advice, I'm sure, for a lot of people. So the next question is, this is again from TikTok. What is the scientific explanation? What is the scientific explanation behind time blindness? I can't stand when my friends just say leave earlier. It doesn't work, and it's one of my biggest sources of ADHD shame. So again, it's time blindness. I'm sure a lot of people struggle with that. Do you have the explanation for that, the scientific one?
Yeah, I'm never, and I'm always positioning this in terms of neuroscience and things like that, not my wheelhouse. However, from what, you know, from a ADHD coaching perspective and what we've been taught, what we see, you know, ADHD is having that now versus not now type of brain. You know, we just don't really see, a lot of us are very much, you know, don't see the kind of future. We're stuck in the past. I've had a lot of clients that ruminate, you know, there's certain situation occurs that triggers a memory, and then they're completely stuck in the past, for instance. There's so many distractions that, you know, make it really difficult for ADHDers to kind of feel time passing. It's just something that, you know, we are literally time blind. That's why one of the things that's really helpful, like a time timer, is amazing, because then it helps us see time. Also, ADHD overlaps with things like dyslexia, probably dyscalculia. And so measurement of time, like if it's like, say you have to leave the house at 9 o'clock and it's 8:40, I got 20 minutes. And for many ADHDers, like I'm one of them, I'm shocking with numbers and measurement, right? Like I don't know what 20 minutes is. I don't know what 200 miles actually, you know, when someone says that's 20 square meters or yeah, that's 200 yards away, I'm like, what you have to give me something actually that I don't know what you're talking about. So it's not just time blindness. I definitely also put money into that category, at least for my type of ADHD, because of the figures. It's the figure. And I did really well at maths. Maths was one of my best subjects. I've got a finance degree, funnily enough, and yet I'm so figure blind, time blind, and, you know, money blind and things like that. So yeah, it's anything. Yeah, Yvonne, what would you say to that?
Yeah, I think there's a real it's very much part of our nervous system, and just in the same way that we're motivated by what's intrinsically important with time, it's just something we don't feel. We don't feel that same passing of time. And so 5 minutes, as you say, we can't quantify that. And that is just, it's part of that dopamine. It's part of just, you know, how the brain works. So the keys to it really are about creating the visual, you know, creating a visual external measurement of what that would be. And so people work with all kinds of things to do that. As you say, that clock, you know, is superb. Having, for many people, actually having a watch is really important. If you have a smartwatch, that can be used to actually have it with you to create alarms, to kind of to prod you. So it is very much around starting to sense the time. Also, the way our nervous system works, there's a lot of energy. Once we have a thought, we go with it. So having 5 minutes for an ADHDer, when you don't feel that time, there's this sense of, oh, but I could get this done and that done. And suddenly we spring into that sense of urgency about things, and we can get a lot done, a huge amount done. But that 5 minutes might turn into the idea of, well, I can get the wash out, or I can get this email sent, or I can get, all of this filing sorted, whatever it is. But we just don't. The surprise, often I hear clients in this all the time, is just pretty shocked that actually it's not the same time that it was when I looked at my watch the last time. It's like, how did 20 minutes go by? I thought this was going to take me 2 minutes. So just that inability to be able to quantify, as you say, and people have that with numbers, people have that with money. So for that person who's asked that question, there is a neurological basis to it, and it's very much steeped in just our energy and how we see how our brain works and how we conceptualize time and numbers. The key is what to do with it, right? It's neurological, it's there. And I can really hear for that person, that they're saying, you're turning up late. You don't want to be late for things. You want to be on time. And no matter how much you say, no, I'm going to get out at, we'll say 11:45, and somehow I'm getting out at 11. Why is that? So it is very much about trying to create that understanding among people who you are with and who are close to you, particularly within personal circles, that, look, I may need a little flexibility on time. That's not saying I can be 30 minutes late all the time, because you've got to respect other people's time. But we can, what you can do is that there's a little leeway. You can expect me to be 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and is that okay with you? Then to make sure that there are work occasions where you can't be late. You just can't. And very often people don't have as much problems with those, because there's
stakes higher. Stakes the higher.
Yes, stakes are much higher. So very often people with work are never late.
Yeah, because of the stakes.
Social.
Yeah, definitely. When there's choice, what I've seen, when we have choice, we tend to self-sabotage. We make the wrong choices, but remove the choice in terms of, the stakes. Either you miss out on something, or the consequence is something that's going to be quite brutal, significant. We tend to get out of our own way easier in that respect. Like, there's less choice, less wiggle room. But it's like you said, it's so important to position, to accept that this is a challenge, to position to people so that they don't get the wrong idea, that they understand it's not because you don't want to be there, that it's, it's a matter of can't versus want. It's really difficult, for me. And, even leading into interdependence, and maybe, can you make sure, maybe come and drag me out of the house? Like, I've had to say to people, I'm pretty bad on this, the time blindness. And I understand what she means by source of shame, because it's not my intention at all to offend anyone or cause inconvenience to anyone. That's horrifying, to like feel that we were the ones that caused any kind of inconvenience to or offended someone, right? But it's just in the moment, like you said, that time blindness, you don't even think about that in the moment, particularly if you're being distracted or falling down a rabbit hole in that time and say, oh God,
There's that impulsivity to actually, I do have time, I can do this, but when we don't know what that time is. So and that's part of our nervous system, is just that we're impulsive to do things, which that not understanding time can be fabulous in many circumstances. So looking into hyperfocus, of where you just zoom right in, and now what you can accomplish is enormous. I think, the strategies that I work with clients on is really starting to see your day. Because what very often happens is that people start in the morning and they're kind of drifting through the day. They have a sense of, I think I have an 11 o'clock and I've got a 2 o'clock and I've got, whatever, the dental appointment, but they're kind of conceptual in their head. So as you say, it's that interdependence, getting it external. So really in the morning of building in some kind of practice to have a visual of what your day looks like. Then structuring, okay, so what is it I'm going to need? So being intentional. What am I going to need to make sure I get out of the office, house, wherever it is, by 10:30, because I need to be there at 11? What do I need to do? So work backwards. Don't wait till 10:30. 10 o'clock is when you need to start planning that and working that through. What alarms can you give? What distractions can you get rid of? It's about being intentional. And then giving a little bit, if we hold ourselves too rigid, we reject that as well. So there is, getting that understanding where we can get it from people around us is also important. So there's definitely things we can do, timers, alarms, endless alarms. Our house, endless alarms are going off all the time for each individual to get out the door, to the point it's really irritating, but it works. It really works. That's, I think that do be the kind of things. It's, don't wait till the time to start figuring out how do I get out of here on time. That's got to be a view early in the day, what's going on, and then how do you set yourself up to make that happen.
And it's never just. This is because I heard you said, when my friends say just leave earlier, whenever there's a just, you hear yourself say just, or so, it's never just for us. It's always, that is like the red flag. Oh, it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that. It's never just, because actually that's the term that's used. And I've done it myself, of where you have that spare 5 minutes. I'm just going to
nip out.
Actually, that needs to, if we could just get some sort of shock when we say just.
5 minutes, don't worry.
Hang on.
Yeah.
Just is a term I used to hate.
Yeah, that is. I love that. I love that. That's definitely that is a warning sign. I've never thought of myself in that way, but I will now.
Yeah, good.
I think the alarms is always a great idea. I always set constant line, and try and make it half an hour before.
Oh yeah.
Just before something, not.
It's the prep. Yeah, it's the prep.
Yeah.
You got to prep to be where you need to be well in advance of where you need to be there.
Yeah. And I always try just getting clothes ready or something like that can be, I think, quite useful. Just not in the morning deciding I'm going to wear this or something's not ready.
And have a massive meltdown because of the virus steam. You think you're going to look crap, and then the whole day. Crap. Yeah, there is so much.
Well, it's also removing decisions. Right.
Yeah.
So removing as many of the decisions as you can from that time, and that's very much, with coaching, that is what we do, is we actually work that through, work backwards and see where somebody is actually getting tripped up. And you're right, it can be down to making decisions at that time. What will I wear, or how will I get there, or who's coming, or what else do I need to do on the way? That's a lethal one. I'll just drop this off.
Suddenly I've got to make a decision, or maybe I should just do that on the way. And that can be a disaster. And the next question we have: are there any supplements that you have found that help ADHD symptoms?
Well, I have worked with a fabulous person who is it's kind of a new area, which is physiological neuroimmunology, right? There is a mouthful. And the conversations I've had with him, and I've done this and I've found it really great. Obviously, everybody has got to work with their own GP and work with, based on what's going on for themselves. But there certainly are ones that are really, we know are good. Magnesium, there's different types of magnesium. So there's magnesium that's good for sleep, magnesium that's good for kind of just calmness, calming the nervous system. We know that vitamin Bs, particularly for women, so B complexes are superb. Vitamin D, these are the kind of combinations of supplements that are excellent. There's a whole host. There's so much more research going on around this area, but they would certainly be ones that there's been a lot of work on, that we know are really good in terms of nervous system, because ADHD is not just about distraction. It's not just about impulsivity. We now know, or emotional regulation, enormous part. It's a whole system. It's a nervous system. So getting cortisol levels down is so important, and we run on them. We run on this steam of cortisol all the time and adrenaline, right? And so we're in that sympathetic nervous system. We want to be over in the parasympathetic, and that's what the likes of, some of those supplements really help to settle inflammation within our system. There's loads of work around turmeric and how really great that is at just because it can be around inflammation as well, because when you're in that heightened state, that's kind of what your body is doing. So there's a lot of work being done in that area. There's a lot of knowledge now in that area that's now being applied to the likes of ADHD, and it's definitely something to start reading about and exploring, because it most definitely can help. But we don't give, just to say, I suppose, just to reiterate that it's individual for everybody. So I'm not telling everybody to go off and get on magnesium. You need to do that and know your own things that are going on and discuss that with a GP or a nutritionist.
Yeah, because another one I think you might hear recommendations for on social media, etc. If you take this or that, it's going to help you with ADHD, and always, as you say, be very careful.
Yeah, there's very little research, to be honest, on ADHD specifically with supplements. There is little research, but we do know that the research that has been done, we do know that in general population, magnesium is good for for calming and for nervous system. There's certain things we do know. Specifically for ADHD, there's less work done on that, but it's improving. And it's definitely anything that is helping. And it's not just supplements, it's anything that's helping that parasympathetic nervous system. So moving out of that fight flight, which is the sympathetic system, getting it across. That is what's actually going to have a huge influence on hormones, on what's going on, what's flowing around in our body. And that impacts our impulsivity. That impacts our executive function. So supplements, yeah, but you also need to look to other things to, I guess, reduce that state, or the amount of time spent in that state of sympathetic nervous system.
Okay. Well, that's fascinating to know.
Probably time for one more question.
One more question. We have a few to get through, but let's make this
make this quick.
Let's make more. Let's go work specific, and let's go with, when you're going for a job interview, should you disclose your ADHD diagnosis? Now, this is probably a very important one for people.
Yeah. What would you say, Yvonne? I mean, it's a situation, and different industries are doing different.
In general, it's a very personal decision to decide to or not. You really have to have, at the base of any disclosure for anything, is psychological safety.
Yeah.
And so how much do you trust the people that you are giving this information to, that they have the understanding of what ADHD is, that they will not even have an unconscious bias towards it. And so they may say, talk the talk, but unconsciously they can have bias and think, well, you're going to be late, you're going to be disorganized, you're not going to be able to do this stuff, how can you do great things? Right. And there's that disconnect. So I personally, and in the people that I have coached, I'd be careful. I'd be very careful. You need to know you have psychological safety there.
Yeah. I mean, ADHD awareness has grown, but unfortunately, from obviously this answer and the same answer I would have given to Yvonne, we're just not there yet, unfortunately. Just not there yet. So we still need to raise ADHD awareness is still so much needed, because it is still sorely lacking, the stigma, the myths around it, and then now with those recent tribunal decisions kind of requiring employers to step up to be able to kind of anticipate, really, identify ADHD as within the workplace, get occupational health assessments, and get the awareness training in place and the coaching. Like in this kind of environment, it's probably, I wouldn't blame ADHDers that, like you said, don't really know that organization, the employer, the level of ADHD knowledge for not,
and it can often, it's unconscious bias very often that would be the issue. The most important really the most important person to understand ADHD is themselves, is the ADHDer. Because when you understand your ADHD and you have that awareness and that acceptance around it and know the strategies that work for you, then you can navigate other people and their lack of awareness, and you can do it from a place of strength and safety within yourself. And that's the most important. Not great that you could share it and everybody else will know, but you just don't know what how people will manage that. So start with yourself. For me, I think,
yeah. And there are still ways, like we've had obviously clients that have been in performance management that have left organizations that haven't been very ADHD friendly, catered to their needs. And when we help them, which we do in coaching, helping them prepare for interviews for new job roles, because like Yvonne was saying, it's so important that they understand, their ADHD the most, because it's only then that they can work out, hang on, well, in this new job, I'm going to need these things in place. And so they don't have to frame it as ADHD. They can just say to, the employer or ask questions that will help give them the confirmation that, certain, barriers that maybe were in the way at the last job won't be a problem in this job, So, yeah, there's still ways of being able to set yourself up to succeed.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to distinguish here, because I think the question was, if you're going for a job, do you disclose?
Yeah, going for a job interview.
When going for the job interview.
Okay.
I think
so that is going for the job interview. So there I would be phenomenally careful, and that is not to say and not to confuse that with when you are already in a job and you can already assess that psychological safety. I work, and we all work with many clients of where they're supported by their work for coaching, and they have disclosed very successfully and have got the compassion and the understanding that they need. So there are plenty of scenarios where you do disclose. Just would you do it at the beginning for a job interview? I don't think there's a need. What you want to disclose at that interview are your strengths. Right. And those strengths are, so many of them will come from a place of ADHD. And we will move to a place, if we look at dyslexia, on LinkedIn, dyslexic thinking, it's now a skill. Right.
Yeah.
So the same type of traits. That's what people are looking for. So don't be afraid to put them forward.
Yeah.
And if it is then in the question, do you have ADHD? I'm hearing these, then you're sitting with somebody who actually understands ADHD and know you're in a better place then. But there's great strengths. Put them forward. Don't be putting forward what might be weaknesses or perceived as weaknesses. That's not where you're there to get a job.
No, and like I say to my clients, it's you interviewing them too. It's not just you being interviewed, you're interviewing them. You want to make sure that this is going to be the right place for you. And given past experiences, given ADHD needs and barriers, it's a great opportunity for them, to seek to understand and then be understood. It's that, to kind of lead with that coaching approach, I guess, to get curious, to kind of see the picture before navigating that, territory. You want to be able to see the picture. So I think exactly we're on the same page in terms of, seek to understand, put forward, your strengths, but be able to find out whether it is the place for you, really.
100%. 100%, absolutely.
Yeah. So
always err on the side of caution, especially if you don't know them, then it could be a very risky business to do so.
Be curious.
Be curious, as you say. Do we have time for one more question around ADHD at work?
Yeah.
One which I'm sure a lot of people who have ADHD and are interested in how coaching would help them at work. So what are the ADHD coaching methods would you advise for people who are struggling with workplace burnout?
Burnouts, yeah. So are ADHD coaching methods effective in tackling burnout?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Well, what would you say to that, Yvonne, in terms of that question?
I think the first is recognizing in yourself that is where you are, right? And acknowledging it and not just keep pushing through, because that's what's brought that person to burnout in the first place, right? So that's the first thing, acknowledging it, sharing it, right? Sharing that conversation with somebody I think is really important, so that it's acknowledged externally outside of yourself. And then it's very individual for each person, right? Because it depends on how that burnout is exhibiting and at what degree of burnout that they're at. But there's definitely, if it is at a place where you can continue to work, can you share this with your employer? Do you need to get medical support, first of all, so that to be able to take time off, so going to GP, or is it something you're able to navigate internally? Is there flexibility with working from home? What are the things you need to try to alleviate this so that you can continue working? And so understanding what they are, and again, going back, as you said, stuff around interdependence and externalizing, write it down, get it out, what it is that you feel you need. Work that through with somebody. For what are the things, and then identify who can you discuss that internally within the organization, of where you will get that support. And then it's sometimes coaching is required to help identify those things, right, of what they are. Really, the holy grail is avoiding the burnout, because that's, is understanding your needs, your boundaries, how to stop saying yes. It's okay to say, to saying no is saying yes to you. You don't have to say yes to everybody. How to do that, how to navigate that.
And this is the coaching methods. Yeah. What Yvonne has just described there, they are the ADHD coaching methods. That is what we do with individuals in the workplace that either at risk of burnout, or they're between their phases, or they're still in the burnout. It's, again, getting them to pause, power of the pause, which Adka teaches us, to pause, to process what's actually going on, like you said, because a lot of ADHD is just push. We just push through. We're always fine. You ask an ADHD, like a lot of my clients that do suffer from burnout, when you ask them how they are, invariably you get, yeah, fine, everything's fine, because that's what we tell ourselves to keep going, because we don't pause, because we pause to process how we really feel and how overwhelmed we are. The fear is, well, if I admit this, then
I've got to face it. But it's so much of it is I'm fine, and they're answering from up here. I'm unaware of actually physically what's going on, and making that connection between, body, mind, and body. And so often the answers are already sitting in your body as to what you're feeling and where it's at. And it won't be, what's the body holds score, right? The body is going to tell you, it'll catch up. So you gotta acknowledge it.
Yeah, and that's what we do in coaching. Because it's providing that safe, non-judgmental space, and also, being able to. It's that opportunity for them to check in, and importantly, through the ADHD lens, kind of having them. We normalize it. It's not like because usually the rejection sensitivity, right? It's like there must be something wrong with me, but once they realize as well that no, you're the workaholic style ADHD. This is something that all of us face. This is not unusual. And it's more of a matter of accepting that. And like you were saying, Yvonne, those coaching methods, being able to learn, your limits, manage, how to manage your energy, but importantly, how to set boundaries, communicate boundaries to manage your energy. And Yvonne you did that LinkedIn Live on managing your energy, didn't you? So guys, have a watch of that recording that Yvonne did on managing energy on this point in particular. But ADHD coaching is fantastic for helping on that level, on that front.
Yeah, because burnout is energy management, and then it's what to do with it.
Not easy.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people will relate to that. And I think also it's got to be made clear, but it's not just employees, there'll be managers as well. Will struggle massively with that, with the delegation.
Massively. We see it, and we see it so much as well with entrepreneurs. We see that because that passion takes hold, and they just relentless and keep going and going. But you see, it's very evident, not just at employee level, it's at manager, at leadership, at entrepreneurial level, right through. But it's really gaining that really deep understanding of yourself.
Yeah,
right? And accepting that, as you said, Stephanie, it's normal. but it's accepting that you're normal, that what's normal for an ADHD brain is perfectly fine.
Yeah, no
Just need
shame.
to know how to work with it. It's just, that's all it is. It's knowing how to work with it, and that's where people get tripped up. They just don't know how to work with it.
Yeah,
You know,
that's where coaching, ADHD coaching, definitely comes
hugely.
that help you get out of your own way. You know, we can do things for others we can't do for ourselves. So
I know. And look at that, the sun is shining here.
not here.
Quite so much.
Hey.
Look at this, just
Yeah,
comes the glow of sunshine.
Oh, lovely. Okay, we'll go up to Dublin.
Yes,
Yeah,
Definitely,
you'll be
that'd be
seeing Eleni
gorgeous.
soon too, won't
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, really excited next
Nice.
week. So that'll be
Fantastic.
great. Yeah, cool.
Definitely have to
that.
make a trip. That sounds like great fun.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much, Yvonne.
Yeah.
Oh, and thank you. Thanks to those who sent in the questions there. Really,
Yeah.
they were
Guys.
very, very on topic and questions that we come across a lot. So great. Hopefully they get some good answers there.
Yeah, so we've got all the recording of the LinkedIn Lives across the last 4 weeks, including Yvonne's one she did on managing energy. So do kind of go and have a look for that one on the Send ADHD LinkedIn. It's also on the YouTube for Send ADHD and Empower ADHD as well, if you want to watch any of those recordings. And if you haven't registered for the HD Coaching Summit yet, we've got David Gewerk, founder of ADCAR, again for the third year, opening up the summit on Thursday at 4 p.m. You don't want to miss hearing him speak. You'll hang on his every word. No one speaks about ADHD and ADHD coaching like David. You don't want to miss it. So we'll provide the link to register for the summit in the comments, and hopefully, we'll see you there. But thank you for listening.
Thanks, everyone.
Hey.
See you later.